Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Defiant Podcast. I'm your host, Majid Padelin, a.k.a. Brooklyn Dad Defiant. And here's my co-host, the co-host with the co-most, my man, the Hessinator, Kenny Hess.
Pleasure to be here as always. Another busy week. What do you know?
It's always a busy week. There's a lot of stuff going on. Did you see the primary last night? Specifically, I'm talking about Colorado.
You know, I haven't yet, so please. I saw some musings online. I saw some allusions to it.
So if I were to tell you that Lauren Boebert was facing somebody last night, you would have probably put money that she would lose, would you not?
I probably would. Yeah. I mean, I would hope that she would lose.
You would have lost
sanity. God damn. Good thing I'm not a betting man.
Good thing I'm not. I don't understand it.
Doesn't make sense. It. I mean, who was she running against? Do you have any?
So the dude, you mean the Democrat?
Yeah.
Because last night was the primary, and she beat some guy, and people were, I guess, consoling me and saying that, oh, don't worry, because she's going to face a Democrat in the fall. And here's the important thing: 55% of Coloradans voted, in that district, voted against her. So that's
good.
That's good. That's good. Still alarming that she even made it this far, but whatever.
Right.
The guy she's facing actually shot his ad in the exact same theater where she.
No way.
Yes way.
That's just brilliant marketing.
Where she reached out and touched somebody.
And she vaped in the theater, and you say her name 3 times like Beetlejuice, and she'll appear to give you a tug.
Terrible.
Oh, Lord.
So the other day I posted because all anybody's talking about now is the debate. Pretty much. There's some random things sprinkled in there about foreign affairs and Supreme Court.
Which we'll
Supreme
get to.
Court verdicts or whatever, but it's mostly the debate. And I posted a tweet the other day, and let me read to you what it said. It says, if you had a chance to ask Donald Trump one question for him to answer on national TV during the debate, what would you ask him? Best ones will be read on the Defiant Podcast this Thursday. That's today. So we're going to share some of those questions. There were a lot of good ones. It was really hard to come up with like the best, but this one actually made me laugh out loud. This one was by Alex Cole, and his handle is at AC News ITICS, ITICS. First thing Biden says to Trump on the debate stage: does your probation officer know you're here?
I mean, you win the debate right there if you come out the gate swinging with that one. He's like opening statements, and he's like, "I'll get to it, but first."
Yeah, raise your hand if you don't have to report to a probation officer. Something like that. You want to read the one of these?
Yeah. Okay, so this one's from Stevie Nicks fangirl. Their at is at Milloy_Jody. This is good. If you're innocent as you claim, why have you tried so hard to delay your trials?
Boom. Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. I mean,
I remember him. I'm old enough to remember him saying, "If you're not guilty, why would you plead the fifth?"
Which he has done countless times.
Right, but as speaking specifically to her question, which is a very good one, like, why would you delay it? Like, I would want my name to be cleared up, like, pronto.
Right. You would think, unless you have something to hide, or you're trying to wait for a Supreme Court decision, or you're trying to delay things until after the election when you have immunity, and then you have judges that kind of help you doing that, which is
exactly
Eileen Cannon looking at you. Anywho,
It's a damn shame.
It really is.
Here's a good. There were a lot of these. There were this one here is from Bon Jovi, and that's at Bon Jovi. There were different variations on this one, but without checking, list all of your children and their ages, or give just one of their birthdays.
Ivanka, I know when Ivanka was born because I want to, I said if she wasn't my daughter, I'd probably be dating her. So that is a brilliant one. Yeah, list off your kids' names and ages or their birthdays. Oh man, I would love to see him do that. I would love to see him ask that on the spot, or just give one of their birthdays. Guaranteed,
just one. Just one. How hard could it be?
Oh, very difficult for Donald Trump there. Okay, this next one's a long one, but a very, very good looking one. I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, but it is from Craig Rosniecki.
Ooh, that's
Craig
good.
Rosniecki. Thank you.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. They say in the run up to the 2016 election, you said, and I quote, folks, she, meaning Hillary Clinton, shouldn't be allowed to run. If she were to win this election, it'd create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial. It would grind government to a halt, end quote from Donald Trump. The question then, you've now been convicted of 34 felonies and are facing 54 additional felony charges and 3 more indictments. Given what you said with regard to former Secretary of State Clinton, should you be allowed to run for president? Why or why not?
Classic case of your own words coming back to bite you, also known as being hoisted by one's own petard. Is that
petard? Yeah, I think it is.
Boy,
that is. I mean, granted, he doesn't remember saying that probably.
I would be really disappointed if they don't, put, like that is low hanging fruit right there. If they don't bring that up, then they're failing at their jobs.
100%. I mean, that you just have to hammer that home. It's like everyone has been saying the media should do more, the Democrats should do more. Like any chance you get, just like almost like how Trump constantly interrupted Biden and Hillary in the last debates, even though granted it'll be a little harder to do with the mic situation now, but any chance you get, you just drop that, you're a felon. Like
yeah.
Tag it on.
Exactly. Here's one from Zero Dark 29, and his handle is at Hero Times Zero. I like that handle.
Nice, me too.
It's a good one. Say your electric boat is sinking. You see a shark. Naturally, you choose to get electrocuted, but suddenly you see Hannibal Lecter is riding the shark. Do you assume it's friendly and swim to it, or are they both trying to eat you? What do you do, genius?
Whoa, dude, that one wins. That bar none, that question wins absolutely.
For those of you in the audience who are unfamiliar with the gist of this one, what makes this one funny is because it's an amalgamation of all the different random topics that Donald Trump has just kind of brought up during his rallies: sharks, batteries, electrocution, and Hannibal Lecter. Why is he fixated on Hannibal, the cannibal?
I still don't know. I still don't understand. I don't know what he was trying to prove, what he was trying to like. It just came out of nowhere. He called him the late great too, as if he was actually a real person. That is
insane.
God, like now I actually want to know the answer, like what he would respond to that question, because
I do too. Actually,
that is brilliant. It's
very complex.
Right. He'd probably point around the room. He'd be like, "Man, woman, camera, Shark.
Shark.
There was a great movie called Jaws. Oh boy. Oh man.
Well,
Okay. I see one more on the list here, and this is, I think,
mhm.
a good way to round it out. Steph M, who has the handle at Safety Puppy. Nice. Her question is, what is the Lord's Prayer?
Ooh, I know that one, actually, and I'm Muslim. I do know that one, but I specifically recall, a video of Donald Trump attempting to mouth the words, but
Yep.
can't even properly, like, he's clearly way out of his depth, doesn't know that.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be
Thy will be
done
done on
on
earth
earth
as it
as it
is
is
in
in
heaven.
heaven. I
Yep.
mean,
He
that's
says,
that's right off the top of my head. I don't have to read it. I've heard it a bazillion times in the movies and whatnot.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and Donald Trump could not even. I know exactly the clip that you're talking about, and he's just like it doesn't even look like he's actually saying any words.
it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
Yeah, and that's the guy that these people Christian values. Anyway,
And he's about to possibly face off against President Biden in a debate. And only reason I'm saying possibly is because people are on the fence of whether or not he's even going to show up. I'm
right?
old enough to remember when you didn't have to wonder if a presidential candidate was going to actually show up for a debate. He's doing a whole lot of oh, maybe I'll let him win. All
Right?
this nonsense, and Hannity was
Yep.
suggesting that maybe he shouldn't even show.
Yeah. All these people are trying to give him out. He's trying to give himself an out. He's saying maybe I'll lose the debate on purpose, like all these
Mhm.
different things, because they set the bar so low by calling Joe Biden senile, by
He can't
referring
string
to
two
him,
sentences together, apparently.
right. And then if you lose to that guy, how does that look? Unless
Yeah,
you lay the groundwork for your sheeple followers and say, no, 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 I meant to lose, or no, 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 I'm not going to show up. Which, by the way, we're recording this on Wednesday, and so far he has not backed out. So
so
there
far,
very well could be a debate tomorrow.
indeed, indeed. What are you
Uh,
old enough to remember, buddy?
well, I have one. I'm old enough to remember when judges didn't pick a side before ruling on a case.
Oh, that's a
And
good one.
I say that because it seems like Judge Eileen Cannon has picked a side, Trump's side to be specific, in Trump's classified documents case. And
Like
I'm
she's on the
very
payroll.
it seems like she's on the payroll. She's delaying it constantly. Um, she's making these weird decisions that I'm very excited to kind of probe our guest about as someone who's not a, aficionado in in all realms of the law. But everything you see,
She's
what were you gonna
making a
say?
mockery of the bench, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
like, what a judge is supposed to stand for is like impartiality. Like, when I was
Yep.
growing up, that's what judges were, neither left nor right. They weren't hot or cold. They were like right down the middle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. I mean, she's also quite inexperienced as a judge, which a lot of people are giving her flack for. And
Hmm.
I mean, that point I can see, but I also like it's more about the fact that she is so clearly partial to hearing arguments from Trump's side and to delaying this case. This case was supposed to have a start date of May 20th for a trial.
Yep.
We're in June, the
Yeah.
end of June,
It's a damn shame.
and it's not coming anytime soon.
Well, I'm
Unfortunately.
really excited. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about having our next guest delve into that among a bunch of other legal issues. Our guest today is a lawyer and legal commentator featured on MSNBC and NPR and in the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal. He served as the Assistant Attorney General for New York State, where he led the investigation and successful prosecution of Trump University. He's also the author of Taking Down Trump: 12 Rules for Prosecuting Donald Trump by Someone Who Did It Successfully. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you
Tristan Snow.
Hell of an intro.
It's good. I like that. I should get one of those. That sounds awesome. Yeah. I used to do radio. I used to do radio like in college, and you had all the funny sound effects and things like that. You had a whole like board right there. I don't know if any of you guys ever did that, but like I had a blast doing that like 25 years ago, and I should get that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Did you have a go-to sound that you would use?
Oh God, I can't even remember. I probably did, and it was probably stupid. Whatever it was, I was probably like, because you're 19. I don't know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's probably something really dumb. Yeah, and it wasn't a talk show either. I really shouldn't have been using the sound effect board. Like, was the sound effect board something to do while I was playing like old blues records? Probably not. But there you go. But yeah, that sounds awesome for my pod. I think I might try to do that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a thing called the voice mod. And
okay, I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah, mind you,
I think they just got another user.
They are not sponsoring this show, by the way.
Okay, that's not for me either. So there you go. But hey, that's awesome. Do that. Sounds great.
So I thank you for coming back. These are different, slightly different digs than the ones that you visited me in the last time. But recently, Judge Merchan partially removed the gag from Trump, allowing him to talk about Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels and some of the jurors. Why would he do this? Is this a trap?
Oh gosh, I think that it partly is a trap. I also think so. I actually just talked to Michael Cohen about this, and his theory is that this was for his show, which, and I think it's going to air probably like next week, maybe late this week. But his theory is that it's so Trump has nothing to complain about, that he can't go running around whining that he's still under a gag order. I think there's probably something to that. I think that the way I would say that, plus I think they're basically making sure anything he can do to look like he's actually handing Trump some W's occasionally, he's going to take it because he wants to appear as even-handed as possible. That's both because the case is going to go up on appeal now, almost certainly. And it actually could be an interesting tell that he's about to impose a prison sentence. So he's not going to do anything else, right? He's any opportunity that he can have to give Trump a little W to lead up to that big L that he's about to get. He's going to Judge Shuckin's going to do it. That's kind of where I'm landing.
All right, let's not bury the lead here. I swear I just heard you say
you did
prison sentence.
I do believe it. I look, I think it's probably like 60-40. I think we're going to see it. I do think we're going to see it.
Wow.
I think it's going to be somewhere between 18 and 30 months. That's just my bet. I might be totally wrong. I think I might be totally wrong, but like I could be totally wrong. But I believe that he has really tried his darndest to do this even-handedly. And I think, but he's also he has a line that he won't cross where it's like, no, you're going to get treated like anybody else. And I just don't think, based on what we've seen from him, that he's going to stand there or sit there on the bench and impose a sentence that would never be imposed on anybody else. Anybody else having all of those things happen to them, including an elected official, because we do this in New York all the time. We love throwing elected officials in jail for campaign finance related fraud. Just about to happen to George Santos too. They would all go to prison. You're going to prison for that. The guy who used to be the head of one of the houses of the legislature here in New York might still be in prison but he was in power as recently as like 7 years ago or something like this. A guy named Shelley Silver, and he might be out of prison by now, but he got thrown in jail. He got thrown in prison for like a 3-4 year sentence. Anybody else in this position would be going to prison. I think Judge Merchan is not going to give him a huge sentence, not the biggest one he could get, but I do think he's going to get one. I might be wrong.
If he does get that sentence, when would he be looking to serve that jail time?
That's the part where I don't have good news for you, because I think that we would be seeing that in 2025. I don't think that's happening now. I think that this is the way it would happen for anybody else. And that's my sort of North Star for these things is like, are you doing it the same way you would do it for anybody else? That's what the rule of law is. It's applying the same rules to everybody. And in my view, the appeals usually take a while. Now, I think that's a problem that we need to solve globally, that we get some things expedited better, because I think that defendants like Trump are using the appellate process as a weapon. And that's a problem, and we need to reform that. We have to make it so that that isn't something that can happen. A normal appeal would take like a year to do. Okay, maybe longer. He's got to exhaust all of that. Now, Merchan could put him in detention while pending appeal. That's what would happen to a lot of folks committing a street crime. Of course, they can go appeal it, but they're going to appeal it from the prison library. Right. But they're going to, and I mean, I've read those decisions, like, because I clerked for a federal judge for a year. Like and then at the very end, once they're out of appeals, they do like a habeas corpus petition. They're doing that from prison. They're not doing that from home. I do believe that I think that that's where you'll also see Merchan square the circle a little bit, where I think I think he's going to impose a sentence, but he's going to say, but the part that'll be eased off of that will be, we're not going to throw you in prison until the appeals are exhausted. That's my bet.
Now, Tristan, I'm not aware of like the consensus of all of the legal experts on this, but I am pretty sure I've heard a lot of people go the other way on this, and they're saying,
I don't think I think I'm in the minority here.
Yeah,
I think I'm in the minority here. My take on this, and maybe, look, I'm willing to acknowledge it may be wishful thinking, but I think that when Judge Merchan's allowed to look at not just his criminal rap sheet, but everything else that he's done, you're allowed to look at behavior and things outside the criminal process. The fact that Trump violated the gag order so egregiously earlier in this case is a factor. But then I think it's everything else. It's the Trump University case. It's the Trump Foundation case. It's the Trump Organization tax fraud case that was a criminal case that the Manhattan DA's office successfully brought against the Trump Organization and against Alan Weisselberg. It's the New York AG's $464 million civil fraud case from earlier this year. It's the E. Jean Carroll cases. All of this together adds up to someone who acts with impunity, with no remorse, no contrition. And most of those things that I just talked about had to do with business fraud, which is what he got convicted of in this criminal case with the 34 felony counts. So I think if you're Judge Merchan, you can very defensively say, this guy's got a long record of committing all of these frauds in the great state of New York. This may be his first criminal offense, but it's not his first bit of wrongdoing. And he's allowed to take all of that into account. And I don't really imagine that when Donald Trump did that Zoom with his probation officer for the pre-sentencing review, one of the things that they look for in that situation is there remorse? Is there some sense that the person feels bad about what they did and is willing to own up to it? I don't see that happening with Donald Trump. We don't know what happened on that Zoom, but I got to be honest. I bet you that there's no way that he actually gave a bona fide human looking show of contrition. I just don't buy it. So
it was a rigged trial.
And then he came after his daughter, for Christ's sake. He's not allowed to say that was a factor, but he's a human. Why would you attack? Like, you don't attack the judge. It's the stupidest thing. Like,
that just seems like common sense.
Right. If you yell at the umpire enough, you're going to get thrown out of the game. It's just common sense. So why do it? You do it for a little bit of theater if you're a baseball manager, but like, for reals, why do it? You don't do it if you're a criminal defendant. It's like, it's something that like nobody does. Nobody does that. You don't go after the judge. The only people you ever see do that are people with mental health problems.
Tristan,
Like
let me ask you,
what it is
politically, what is worse for Trump on sentencing? If he gets sentenced to actual prison time, or if, you know, what the majority is saying, if he gets sentenced to like probation or something, what's worse for him politically?
That's a good question. I think that if he gets off light on this, because let's talk about the range of things that can happen here. We've got probation. That's the lightest end. Then there's because he's not getting off, right? Obviously, the jury makes that decision. The lightest thing that could happen here is that he gets probation. Second lightest is that he gets some kind of form of house arrest, some kind of home confinement, or maybe he gets an ankle bracelet put on him, so that he can go campaign.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, though, that would resonate with people. Like, it's just like, dear God, I'm voting for a man who has an ankle bracelet on. Like, am I really going to do that?
Yeah.
You know, there's a sting to that and a stigma to that I think would stick. So, and then there's if he actually gets prison time. I think that if he gets prison time, it's going to activate his base, but they're already pretty activated. I don't think you're going to activate them more. I think the spectacle of having him actually go to prison would probably be something that could cause his supporters to just be that much more fired up. And maybe it would pull back some of the people that have been straying from him to be like, oh, they can't do that to him. That's just not right. But I don't think you're going to see that. Because like I said, I don't think even if he gets sentenced to a prison term, I don't think you're going to see that this year. I think it's going to be next year that he actually goes and reports to a penitentiary, if that's going to happen upstate somewhere. So that won't activate him. So I don't really think it's going to activate the MAGA people that much more than they already are. I think if he gets off light, it could really make the Dem base even more pissed off than it already is, that something has got to be done about this man. I think people are going to be absolutely flipping. I know I will be just absolutely flipping furious if he gets off. If he gets probation, that will be just an absolute travesty. If he gets an ankle bracelet, if he gets home confinement, I feel like it's special treatment, but it does stick him at Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago or someplace. I mean, he really should have to serve it in New York. So I think that they would make him serve it at Trump Tower. Like, if he's trapped in Trump Tower during the presidential season, I mean, that's not good for him politically. No. If he wears an ankle bracelet, I think that like the jokes are huge. I just think it makes him look like a laughing stock. It makes him look weak. I think that overall, any punishment here probably does have a very corrosive effect on his ability to keep independents and moderate Republicans in his camp.
So how does
go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to ask, like, how does this become affected, like his potential probation or imprisonment? How does that become affected down the line if, let's say, he wins the presidency, or given the Supreme Court trying to give him immunity? Does that nullify any of this, or?
Yeah, good question. So let's see. First, the presidency. He cannot pardon himself for these New York State criminal offenses.
Though he'll probably try.
So he might try, but he cannot.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger issue with him being president is simply just resisting reporting for his prison term. Like, if he's down in Washington with the Secret Service around him, you know, he's going to basically be like, come and take me. You know, and then the New York State troopers show up in DC to like take him up to the Huskow. Like, how's that going to work? That creates a whole like constitutional crisis issue that I would rather not think about too hard. As for the immunity decision, the pardoning won't be it. It would be the like physicality of like, oh, come and take me away. But I also believe that the American people would not stand for him barricading himself in the White House or daring the New York State troopers to come get him. If he's got to serve a prison sentence, I don't care if he's president. And I do believe that that's where the majority of Americans would come out, I hope. As for the immunity issue, that has to do with the that's nominally around the federal J6 case, as we know. The question is then, could it apply to this New York case? I don't think that it will, because the events in question that occurred, it could a little. I'll just say this. Most of the events in question in the New York criminal case happened before Trump became president.
Right.
They happened before January 20th, 2017, and when he was sworn in. Some of them did occur after he was in the White House. As we heard, a lot of the reimbursements to Michael Cohen actually occurred while Trump was in the White House. He even signed checks to Michael Cohen from the Oval Office. So Trump could try to say, and I'm sure he will, that thereby that case should die too. But I believe that the Supreme Court is probably going to render a decision here that splits the difference and says that Trump doesn't have blanket immunity, but he does have immunity for any act that he undertook that was an official act of the office of the president. But if he acted as a private citizen or he acted as a candidate, then those are not official acts and he is not immune, even if they occurred while he was in the White House. And that's going to create a whole giant, awful, fact-intensive inquiry that I think has a silver lining to it that I can explain with regard to the J6 case. With regard to the New York case, it would mean that then it's possible that we would go back to Judge Merchan for a hearing on whether the act of signing the checks to Cohen in the Oval Office constitute an official act of the presidency, and then that decision would invariably be appealed, and that could delay things a bit. I could see that happening, but I don't see any judge, maybe Clarence Thomas, but I don't see any judges. I don't even think Samuel Alito could sit there with a straight face and say that signing a check to pay off your personal lawyer, not your government lawyer, to not to pay off Bill Barr, or at that time it was Jeff Sessions. You weren't paying your attorney general. You weren't paying the White House counsel's office. You're paying your personal attorney who does not have a government job and did not come with you to Washington, namely Michael Cohen. You're paying your personal attorney, repaying them for the payment that he made to pay off a porn star you slept with. If that is an official act of the presidency of the United States, I'll call done. You guys from New Zealand. We're done. I'm moving to New Zealand, and that's
everything.
We're done.
Is it?
It's over.
Everything
Rome
is
has
a joke.
fallen. It's everything's done, and we're just like, I don't see it. I don't think that we're all the way that bad. Like, I just think that it's like there's a lot of ways that America could fall apart. I don't think that's the one that does us in, is then saying that reimbursing the porn star payment was an official act of the president.
Now, but let me ask you this.
New York case is, I do think that the final ultimate outcome of this New York case is Donald Trump getting punished for these felony convictions. And I think that's more probably than not, that will be in a prison cell.
Now, Tristan, I agree with you that we're not quite done yet, that there is hope.
We're not quite done yet.
Right. But,
that's a crappy bumper sticker, right? That's like the t-shirt. We're not quite done yet. America 2024. Yeah, that's our new slogan, guys.
But this Supreme Court, really, I've never in my life had to worry about the Supreme Court. I've never had to worry about them doing the right thing. It's not like it's always leaned liberal or it's always leaned conservative, I never had to question, whether things were on the up and up. So this case, they could have decided this presidential immunity thing like months ago. I believe they could have decided a long time
100%,
ago. 100%. Why the fahizi are they dragging this out so long?
Okay, there's the fun. There's more my fun and like quick take answer, and then there's the lawyerly answer, which is less fun.
I'll give you both. Yeah,
I'll give you both. You might not have wanted the second one, but I'll give you anyway. The first answer is because they're a bunch of corrupt hacks. Like that's the quick take answer. I think that it's probably not quite true because look, I do believe a number of them are corrupt hacks. I believe that you can apply that statement to Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito.
Yep.
The rest of them, I
Kavanaugh.
don't think they're maybe. Yeah, well, yes, I will say with Kavanaugh, because we've always had the giant veil of mystery over how all those debts of his got paid off. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, but this always pops up on Twitter often because people are still wondering about it, along with like what happened to the pipe bomber, all these things we still don't fricking know. But Brett Kavanaugh, when he was on he got nominated and confirmed to the DC Circuit, which is really the sort of like number 2 court for prestige, right below the Supreme Court. And when he had to do his disclosures for that, he had all these huge debts. He had some of them were garden variety, a mortgage, but he also had like hundreds of $1,000s for the credit card debt and a bunch of debt that he owed his country club, which is hilarious to me. It's just like good. And it was like, it's 6 figures, I think, maybe 5 or 6 figures. It was like a very large amount of money. It's just like, Brett, that bar tab really built up, didn't it?
That's what I was thinking.
It's just like, oh man, like you have not paid your bar tab for a long time, my friends. I know they charge like $15 a beer at those country clubs, but it took a lot for you to get that number.
Right. That's like,
but anyhow,
a couple keggers.
Only a few years later, he goes up for the Supreme Court and he's reporting that he's debt free. And it's like, what happened? Because by the way, I don't know about any of you, but like who pays off $1.2 million on their mortgage early? Like, no, you don't. Like who paid it? No. Now it could be an innocuous thing. Like his dad paid it off and it was embarrassing and he didn't want to publicly acknowledge it. But it's also possible that he got paid off by Harlan Crow and we don't know, or Leonard Leo or the Koch brothers or any of these other people that are trying to buy seats on the court. So anyhow, look, they're corrupt hacks. That's the short answer. The longer answer is probably something like this, that the appellate system is built for a different era. It's quickly becoming sadly a real historical relic. The notion that you're going to be like, well, let's take a couple of months to brief this issue. Like we'll give one side 2 months to write a brief and we'll give the other side 2 months to write a brief because we got to sit in a library and think about these things deeply. And I've written and edited appellate briefs. They are beastly things and you edit them over and over and over and over again. And you're sending them into this really important court before these really important judges. But the problem is that process can be used. It's been weaponized. And the SCOTUS, I hate to say it, like it wasn't Bush v. Gore quick. Like I'll still point to that as like, hey, guess what? When you want to move quickly, you do, don't you? That took 3 days, 2 days, to do the whole thing. Boom, 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 done.
Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Let's see, they got that. They granted cert, which I really think they shouldn't have done, but then they did. It took them 2 months basically to do oral argument. Now, 2 months later, we're here where we are now. That's really fast for SCOTUS, sadly. So why did it take so long? It's just like, no, it's because the whole appellate system is being used maliciously by these MAGA folks. Steve Bannon's doing the same thing right now. He's doing the exact same thing. Now he's going to the Supreme Court to try to stop the prison sentence from happening to him. But basically the lawfare is happening with these right wingers. And I think we need to actually have some procedures put in place where when that's happening, and it would be a miscarriage of justice for the appeals themselves to be a source of delay like this, that's undue and unwarranted, unmerited, that there is some method and procedure in place to say, no, we're going, and it's going to happen faster. We have to, and maybe it means we have more judges. Maybe it means we have more law clerks. Each of these SCOTUS justices has a team of 4 people. That's it. They're writing these. Each of these opinions can be 20 to 100 pages long, depending on the case. And they have 4 people, 4 very talented, smart, capable law clerks that are some of the like brightest young legal minds in the country. But it's only 4 of them. That's insane. The number for every Supreme Court case, there's probably a minimum of 20 to 30 lawyers that were involved with the briefing, with prepping for oral argument, with actually doing the oral argument a total. So the work that they did was done by like 30 people minimum.
Wow.
And yet a judge and 4 people too. We need more people. We need more justice. That's the problem. Like, we need more justice to keep up with all the injustice that's happening.
But I mean, has there always been such a disparity between the workload and the number of people available to handle that workload?
Yeah, that's built. You're right. That's the right question. It has just gotten steadily worse and worse and worse over time. When did they move to 4 clerks? It probably was in like the 1920s. I'm not joking. Like, they probably have had the same number of clerks for this whole time. You know, and as people are fond of pointing out, and I'm one of them, it's like, look, we also have a lot more people and a lot more cases before the Supreme Court, and we still only have 9 Supreme Court justices. Wouldn't it be helpful if we had more? Like most of the other, right, like 11 or 13, pick another odd number, and like that's probably how many we should have. I've been advocating, and I haven't seen anybody else doing this, that we should have at least 7 clerks, if not more, per justice. And that would allow them to get a lot more done a lot faster, and they really should. And we should be doing that throughout the federal judiciary and in the state courts too, and at prosecutors' offices and at the woefully underfunded public defenders' offices. We basically need to build a justice system for the 21st century. The last 8 years, 9 years have exposed how woefully inadequate our system is. We have a 19th century, 1800s judiciary system for a world of like Russians trying to hack our entire information marketplace and put their Manchurian candidates into office, and having these cases get weaponized. We need a redo on how the entire system works, and we need to have more accountability when justices get bought. We need to have a system in place for being able to pull these people back and say, nope, bye-bye. We can't say it's impeachment, which feels like such a high bar. We need to say, no, you don't get a lifetime appointment, and Congress can yank you back. You can get recalled by Congress. That's not something I ever would have thought was necessary when I was in law school or college. I never would have wanted that back then. I probably wrote papers back then saying that such a thing would be a terrible idea. That we grew up with this notion that the judges are this insulated thing that's special, and that you want them to do their job in peace and not be corrupted by the political system. They've been corrupted by the political system. We need to uncorrupt them by actually imposing the checks and balances that are true for every place else in our government.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I mean, that is music to my ears, honestly, to hear you saying that.
That's good, because I can't sing. So you want me to just do that.
You don't have to, brother.
That's good.
Tristan, have you heard recently people asking or raising the concern that Justice Sotomayor, she just celebrated her 70th birthday. Some people are saying, oh, maybe she should retire so that President Biden could appoint someone new. I don't know if you've heard that, but if this is your first time hearing it, just yesterday, because yesterday was her birthday.
Happy birthday, Justice.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that's like a knee-jerk fear reaction to what happened with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and people were like, oh, she didn't retire, and then we got hit upside the head with Amy Coney Barrett?
Yeah, that's honestly, that's a very tough thing. I think the issue with Justice Ginsburg is that it wasn't just her age. It was also that we knew her health was declining. And, obviously I can probably guess that if she could speak to us now, she would tell us that she regrets not stepping down when she could have. I bet you, I'm sure. I think her heart was in the right place because she wanted to continue the important work that she was doing. And that's your life at that. But it's the only, it's almost, you basically almost never see a Supreme Court justice step down to then go back into the private sector or something like that. That's your life. That's your legacy. It's everything. It's your identity. So I don't blame people for wanting to hang on to that for as long as they can. And the work they're doing is truly important. It's not just ego. That's a decision for Justice Sotomayor to make with her, with her doctors. I'll say it in a pithier way. It's like, you know what? It's her tenure on the court, her choice. It's something for her to decide with her doctor.
That's a good one.
So I think it's not about her number, what her age is. I think it's about her health and whether or not she can continue the work. And if she's got a clean bill of health and she determines that on her own, then God bless. So there you go.
Well said.
And I guess it'll also be interesting to then see if so. I think we can say this. Let's see. Trump was in office all the way to January 2021. At that point, Justice Thomas was already in his 70s. I don't think a single person in 2020 say that Clarence Thomas, maybe there is, maybe I just don't read the right wing publications. Maybe this is an op-ed in the National Review or something. But like, I don't know if anybody said that Clarence Thomas should step down while Trump was still president. I don't know that anybody said that. Certainly not in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
So no, I think this is all, I think the media should shut up. That's not for any of us to sit around and decide. That's for Justice Sotomayor to figure out on her own with her family and her doctors.
I agree. So I do want to touch on the debate. I know that your area of expertise is law, and you've also written, a book, how to take down Trump. And, by golly, President Biden is about to step into the arena to try to take down Trump. You have successfully prosecuted Donald Trump. What, in your opinion, would be the best way for President Biden to take down Trump during the debate?
That is a good question. I actually should really think about this way more and probably do a lot more talking and writing about this coming up here, because I do think that I have some things to share about exactly how you go after him, even in the political arena. I think a lot of the lessons that we have from the Trump University case and from, the book is not just about Trump University. It's heavily about the other cases more recently, analyzing whether or not those prosecutors have been playing it right and where they haven't. And I spent a lot of time talking about the New York AG civil fraud case, the E. Jean Carroll cases, the New York Manhattan DA's case, the J6 cases, all of it. And I would say, but I really feel like the playbook that we developed, the genesis of this was our case at the AG's office that we filed in August of 2013 was really the first big case brought against Donald Trump by a government authority since about 1973, 74, when he got actually sued by the federal government for housing discrimination.
Right.
I think the exact number was something like he had 35,000 tenants in the Trump, his dad was sued too. It was something like 35,000 units in Trump owned housing, and there were 8 black tenants. In New York City,
so many black friends. Yeah.
In Queens and Brooklyn, these were 35,000 units in Queens and Brooklyn, and he had 8 black tenants. Wow. And when people would apply, he would tell them, "Oh yeah, you can't look at the apartment today. Oh, you got to talk to Joe to fill out your application. Joe's not here today." Standard runaround fair housing awfulness.
Wow.
Anyhow, ours was the first case in like 40 years to go after him, and the first to be successful. And the AG's office really then continued that playbook with the Trump Foundation case. And then now with the Trump Organization case that was brought successfully earlier this year, and that now is going to be going up on appeal. So what can you see there? I would say, there's a lot of the things in the book that don't quite apply, because it's like, are you going to bring the case? Or are you not? Like, obviously Joe Biden's bringing his case. Like, he's decided he's taking on Donald Trump. Yeah. But I think a lot of it is, I would say to Biden, don't try to get a couple zingers in. That's fine. I think it's good for people to see Biden's wit, because he's actually quite quick on his feet when he talks to reporters and stuff, and people don't appreciate that. I think it has gotten underreported that he's that he's actually still so verbally quick. We did see it. One thing we saw the awesome reaction he had to Marjorie Taylor Greene during the State of the Union when he started to do the he played that perfectly.
Like, whoa.
He played that perfectly. But he's done a lot of others. He's done some zingers in past debates with Trump. You throw a couple of those in there, but you're not going to win. Don't try to outflash Trump. Don't try it. Don't do it, because it's not the way to beat him. The way you beat him is just with cold, hard facts presented matter-of-factly, and just like the way to beat Trump is not to. Trump likes to do the thing that a lot of like blowhard, aggressive people like to do, where they think they're going to be able to. You can draw military analogies to. We're going to win the battle with one big charge. Pew! That was kind of what the Confederacy were trying to do. It was just like, we're going to do one valiant charge and we're going to win the war. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, whereas Grant and Sherman came in and they're just like, we're going to literally take your little stupid rebellion apart, like foot by foot, mile by mile, until we burn your capital down. And that's what they did. And it worked. Now, it helped that they had the advantage in manpower and industrial capacity and so forth and so on. But it's the same. You're going to win by being a steamroller, not by doing some sort of like, on guard, I'm going to get you with my sword. It's like, no, stop that. Just be a steamroller. You're going to keep on. He's got to stick to his facts and his argument. He needs to invoke. He needs to invoke. This is what Bill Clinton used to be very good at, and Obama was too. They would just say, "Look, I'm going to basically give you, in a charismatic, presentable, down-to-earth way, I'm going to tell you exactly what I did, and I'm going to tell you how things have gotten better, and I'm going to tell you how, if you put me back in there, I'm going to do even more stuff that's good for you." And I think that I'm hoping that Biden comes armed with a lot of good, pithy, punchy statistics that hit home and that actually tell the truth, because a lot more people are going to be paying attention to this than have been up to now. Yeah. But that is the bet. And you can't get flustered or get drawn into Trump's like crazy machine. If he starts making attacks on you, you can't then just go you can't show that you're getting ruffled by it. You've got to, you can do a couple of things now and then. I loved Biden's, "Oh, just shut up, man." Like, just a simple thing to basically be like, if I were in a debate with him, I'd let him go on and on and on. And then I'd just turn to the camera and be like, "Are you done?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all are hoping you will be soon. Yeah. Like, we've heard a lot from you. We've heard too much from you, and we didn't see any results, but like, are you done yet? Because you sure look like it. Like, that's what I like, a little bit, but you don't then go in like, "I didn't do that with the COVID vaccine. I did do that." Like, don't. He's going to try to pull you in, and he's going to try to trap you by getting you to respond to his crazy. Yeah. Stick to your stuff. You got to parry a little bit. Like, he's definitely got to be able to trot out like, "No, we're not getting overrun on the southern border. He just did this new thing to halt a lot of asylum applications." I think he needs to be able to trot out some crime statistics. I think the violent crime has been plummeting all across America. It's actually back down to pre-COVID levels. It's back down to pre-Trump levels. Crime started to rise under Trump, and now it's back down to the levels that it was at the beginning of Trump's presidency. He's got to come out with economic stuff too. But I think those things are very important, but you can't let yourself get flustered if he attacks you, and you've got to stick to your guns, and be a bulldozer, be a steamroller. Don't let feelings get in the way, and just keep on pushing your facts, your argument. Don't let him distract you. That's the biggest thing. Of wisdom.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
So I guess the only real follow-up question is, in your opinion, does Trump show up to this thing?
He might not. I think there's a very good chance that he's going to chicken out. I think it's I think it's at least 50-50. Oh yeah.
Wow.
That he'll say something. He'll say at least 50-50 that he can't come.
Why? I mean, as much bravado as this guy has.
Yeah.
Another graduation.
Does Barron have another graduation that he can go to and then not go to it? He didn't. Did he actually go? Because I don't know.
He did. In his defense, I think he did. I think he did. Oh, that's
Does he have
hilarious.
some other court hearing that he can? Oh, I have another meeting with my probation officer. I can't go.
Yeah.
I know he's going to try to say that CNN is biased. It's fake news. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash were going to take me down.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it unless it's a fair debate. And that wasn't fair. So screw CNN. I'm not doing it. And his base won't care. The mainstream media will not report on it the way that they should and actually really say that this is unprecedented and actually call him out for being a coward. I don't think they will.
Yeah.
CNN itself will probably not go out there on that far of a limb and be like, Jake Tapper should then just go and look right in the camera and be like, you scared, Donald?
Yeah.
Because it sure
I have
looks
a
like
theory,
you are.
actually.
That would be great. People might tune in again, but they're not. They need to actually, like, the press cannot be neutral when the war is between democracy and dictatorship, because the press will be the first one sent to a concentration camp if you get rid of democracy. They'll be gone. I'm not hyperbolizing here. Donald Trump has said that he is going to prosecute journalists if he is elected to if he is elected to the presidency again.
It's in the Project 2025 manifesto.
It's in it. It's in it. Okay, so if you want to see where America's going, look at Russia today. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
where you've got look glass cage for a show trial for a journalist. For
Evan.
You don't even know what's coming for you. So no, the media cannot stay neutral here. They cannot.
Yeah. It's actually scary what's happening over there in Russia.
I do think Trump could
quit.
No
press, no family.
No, I know.
What's that?
I know. But I do think Trump could quit. I do. I actually think he could chicken out on this. I think that he got caught. He was saying, "Oh yeah, I don't think he'll debate me now." He thought Biden was not going to go for it. Biden called his bluff.
Yeah, make my day, pal. I have a
theory. Okay, I'll show up. Let's do this.
If he does show up to this debate and it goes poorly for him, I think he'll use that as the excuse to back out of any further debate from there on.
He might, or like he'll say it was biased. He won't say I did. It'll be that like, oh, that was biased. Like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'll do a debate, but I'm not going to do it with one network. I'm not going to do it with those people. He'll try to come up with some other reason. I think that could happen. And then he just kiboshes the other ones. I guess we'll see.
Tristan, if you could ask him a question in this debate, you personally could ask Donald Trump a question in this debate for him to answer in front of a national audience, what would that question be?
Now, I still have the question that I would really love to ask him. It'd be better if I could get a couple to like lead up to it, but I could maybe drill it down to one thing. But I would maybe want to ask him the same question that I would have wanted to ask him if I were a prosecutor cross-examining him in these criminal cases, which would be like, I've heard some people are saying that you really aren't the one who runs these operations that you come up with, that like you weren't really the one running your company and thereby paying back Michael Cohen. You weren't the one actually running your own White House and then trying to figure out how to make January 6th happen. No. January 6th, that was Mark Meadows and Steve Bannon. They were the masterminds of that, weren't they? And just watch the steam. I'm the one. I did it. I did everything. I'm the genius. People are saying. I just had a great conversation with Michael Cohen on his show about Trump. He feels like Trump's biggest tell you can tell if he's lying is that he kind of gets himself puffed up and then he starts using the accordion hands. Whenever he does that, he's lying. And I think that's great. We need to go back and then figure out all of the times he used accordion hands and then figure out like, okay, this confirms
the correlation. Yeah.
Exactly. But I would love to challenge him about like, that wasn't really you, was it? That was Rudy Giuliani was really the mastermind. Rudy's an idiot. Dude. That was me. I did everything. That legal strategy was all me. I did the fake electors.
Oh boy.
That would be it. Rudy had nothing to do with it. I just told him what to do.
How often? How many
would
times?
Be great to goad him into that. I know I just said, stick to your thing, stick to your bit. in a magical world where I could ask one question that would just like cause everything to fall apart, that would be like the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many questions do you think are not questions, but how many references to Trump's being a convicted felon are enough or too much?
34.
That's right.
I mean, you don't want you don't want the national audience to gloss over that, right? But you also don't want to beat a dead horse.
I think you say it one time. I think you say it one time, and you do it really if he's kind of opened the door to it. You know, I actually think that Trump might be so aggressive as to try to like that Trump might actually bring up Hunter before and if he, trust me. Now, I think he's going to do it because he's going to be trying to get Biden mad. Because Biden, I don't care if you, I'm guessing anybody listening to this probably likes Biden, but even if you don't, if you have disagreements with him on certain policy issues or whatnot, there's really not much denying that he's like a good and loving dad. You don't mess with his kids. I think if he comes after Hunter, he's going to get mad, but I'm sure they practiced this in his debate prep, which, by the way, Biden has probably been doing days and days of debate prep. I bet you Trump has done like 0 based on what we heard from 2020 and 2016. So that's always fun too. I also like to point out, it's like Biden's been in elective office. I mean, yes, he's old. We get it. But it also means that he's been in politics since the 70s. He's done a lot of debates for his Senate seats. He ran for president multiple times before he ultimately won. He did VP debate multiple times as Obama's Veep. You know, he's done a lot of debating. This is not his first rodeo. Donald Trump still hasn't done very many debates, not that many, especially against like true opponents, not other Republicans he could badger around, like actual, like, you know, real on the other side opponents. Anyhow,
he skipped out all last year. He didn't do one.
He didn't do any. Oh, he didn't do anything. No, he skipped out on all of that stuff. I do think it's because they would have drawn blood. I think that a number of those folks would have done a good job at actually scoring some points on him. And he didn't want that. And he calculated correctly that he was like powerful enough, popular enough that he didn't need to do it. But I think Biden should mention it once, just to throw it in there. And it may not be those exact words, although it could be. It could be more of an oblique reference to like, you know, that's a funny thing coming from somebody with so many legal troubles.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Now the kicker is going to be that it probably would instantly draw Trump to be like Biden crime family, Hunter this, blah, blah, blah. Like it's going to be a whole thing. But I don't think that makes Trump look, I don't think that really does much except like red meat for his base. I honestly think that the circus is what a lot of people are tired of among like independents and moderates. And the more he makes it the circus, as opposed to Trump, for his part, if he sticks to inflation and crime and immigration, he could actually score some points. But if he makes it about Hunter Biden or whatnot, that doesn't really work very well for Trump. So if I'm Biden, I might throw in the convicted felon thing to provoke Trump. Just be prepared to then get return. He's going to shoot back.
Yeah. And
you don't want to do too much of that, but a little bit just to remind people. Might not be so many. Yeah, maybe an oblique reference to just like, maybe he's got some other thing where it's something about the number 34 and being like, I know that's not your favorite number, Donald. There's fun ways to bring it up. There's fun ways to bring it up. Have fun with it.
Like he did when
if
he
turns it into a joke, it'll make it better. It'll make it
100%.
better if he turns it into a joke.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Like when he was offering the debate, he was like, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. Like
I know. No, that was good. That was very well done.
Really good. Yeah.
Because like, look, the best case scenario for Biden here, the playbook that they're trying to follow, obviously they're looking at Obama in 2012, but they're going to be looking at Reagan in 84.
Yeah.
Where and people forget this. We think about that now as having been a landslide for Reagan, and it was. But as of earlier in 1984, it was a much closer race. Walter Mondale actually was not getting buried in the polls nearly as much. It was unclear how the economy was doing. It got a lot better during the course of that year, and Reagan really ran away with it in the fall. And one of the ways that he did, and by the way, there were questions around Reagan's age.
Right.
That was a big part of it. And Reagan had a couple of famous moments during those debates. One of them was that he made it a joke by bringing it up first. That the joke was, and I'm going to butcher the exact language, but it's that and he was very solemn and straight faced about it. This was where his acting background came in handy.
Yeah.
He basically said, and I promise that I will not make my opponent's age and inexperience an issue.
Yeah.
And that was such a good line. The whole
That's
crowd
actually pretty close to what it was. Yeah.
That's right. And it was so good that Mondale smiled and laughed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and then the I think the whole, saying the whole, like, actually the better off than you were 4 years ago was actually his attack on Carter in 1980. The other bit where he won it, I was trying to think of something else and I'm going to fail now. I had another Reagan thing that was like a key moment in that, but he was basically able to tout how much better the economy was doing under him. And that was like a huge part of it. Oh, I know what it was. It was Mondale was then kind of like whining about all the things that were wrong. And Reagan just kind of looked at him and said, there he goes again. And that's almost quaint now that like that wasn't a zinger by today's standards. That's just sort of like very old timey, like, oh, that's a 1984 zinger. But like Biden needs to lighten the mood a little bit. And people will like him for it, because I also think that one of the things that people are feeling is that it's just been such a heavy time.
Yeah.
The last like 8 years have sucked for so many people. And it's just been so much of a downer. It's been so negative. Like news has just been so negative all the time, not just politics, but everything else. And obviously COVID had a big part to do with that, but just like people want normal again. They want nice again. I do believe that. And Biden can bring that to the table. So he can't attack Trump too much, because I think he needs to look sunny and optimistic, upbeat, energetic. He needs to channel that like inner Reagan and do it. It's not like Reagan was bouncing off the walls. Reagan was an elderly man at the time and was doing it in kind of a measured, stately voice and da-da-da-da-da, but people liked him. And like, that is very much, I guarantee you, that is what Biden is going for. I guarantee you that's the playbook that they're looking to follow, is like a little bit Obama and a little bit Reagan, if you're looking for that re-election playbook. And I would expect that to be the Biden we see in these debates. Throw some zingers around, but make them funny. Try anyway.
Tristan,
I think we'll do it.
I gotta thank you for your thoughtful insights, and you seem like you have some extensive debate experience yourself. Am I correct?
Really.
Because
no,
you really
not at that level. No, I mean, it's you get training about this as a lawyer, because like cases are just another type of debate. So in terms of like a political debate, no, like except for like back in school, that doesn't count. But like yes, back in school a bunch. I am a giant nerd, and I was an even bigger nerd back then. And then I would say that the legal training really like builds that up, because you're constantly trying to see like, how are we going to counter this point? How are we going to counter that point? And then I happen to just be a total like American history buff and political junkie. So I have read about pretty much every presidential campaign that there has ever been. I chomp through political biographies like they're beach reads. It's fun. I nerd out on American history. That's one of my passions. So that's how I can kind of bring it when it comes to any of these like past debates or whatever. So
I love having excuse me, I love having you on the show. You are very, very smart, very insightful. It's always a pleasure having you here, Tristan.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me back again. Really appreciate it. This was a blast. So anytime.
Before I let you go, can you just share with our listeners where they can find you on social media and websites?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm Tristan Snell on most social platforms, including Twitter, which I still insist on calling Twitter,
Yeah.
and also Instagram. I'm Tristan Snow 212 on TikTok. I'm on a lot of the other alt platforms as well, including Spotify and Spoutable rather,
Yep.
and who else? A bunch of the others. So I was on
Threads.
Post, and now sadly Post is going away. I'm on Threads, so that's good too. The other big homes for me right now that I've really been building up, there's Taking Down Trump, the book. You can get that at takingdowntrump.com. There's also Taking Down Trump Now, the Substack. You can find that at tristansnell.com. So I'm publishing weekly there, including a big piece this morning about Trump and the immunity case. And then you can find my podcast, also called Taking Down Trump, wherever you listen to podcasts. So that's what I'm up to these days.
That's Taking Down Trump, and that's Tristan Snell, ladies and gentlemen. Tristan, thank you again so much for being with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
Anytime.
much.
That was a fantastic interview with Tristan Snell there. What do you think about that?
That was incredible. I feel like I learned so much. I feel like I got so much more insight into like the actual goings on of the Supreme Court. It's great to hear someone as smart and knowledgeable on the subject, kind of reiterating the beliefs that I have and talking about how we need to fix things. Just incredible, honestly. Really cool.
I also I was also a little surprised how he went all the way back to Reagan with those Reagan debate moments. So what I wanted to do is play some of Trump's absolute worst debate performances, which are some of my favorite.
Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because
so many things are funny. Whereas it's the second. No, you're the puppet.
Yeah. And the resting stank face. He just has the whole time.
Trying to regain some of his lost dignity, and which was funny. I noticed he's drinking that water with one hand. That was back when he could still drink with one hand. So embarrassing. So embarrassing.
That is hilarious. God, no, you're the puppet.
This next one, when you and I were chatting, you had mentioned this one. I thought was poignant right now for one of the things he said to Hillary Clinton, which kind of came back to bite him in an ironic way.
You delete 33,000 emails, and then you acid wash them or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done, and it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about email.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. Really? In the first debate,
the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking. So I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Wow.
So his audience, they really loved that. Because you'd be in jail moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about all that sniffing?
That's what I was just gonna. I didn't know if I should bring it up or not. There's a really great compilation video of the entire debate, but it's all just Donald Trump sniffs. It's just like the over and over again. It's so great. But also, something that became more apparent to me in that clip too was something that you mentioned as well when we were talking previously, but about Trump kind of following her around and kind of being this like the stalking of like that physical presence. Like he's just kind of wandering the whole time.
That was creepy. It was
very creepy.
Yeah. Now I want to fast forward to another abysmal debate performance, and this one was against now President Biden.
There has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is the question is
Justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Will you shut up, man?
A lot of people say that was the moment where Joe Biden won the debate. And I think it was just because it was that dominance that Dr. Gardner mentioned with us a few weeks ago, on this show. It was also how Tristan Snow just a few minutes ago said you got to steamroll through.
Yeah. Yeah. And he, I think it was just a great expression of the exasperation that so many people had with Trump as a whole, but just the debate process of Trump just constantly interjecting.
That whole interruption thing, by the way, was was part of Chris Christie's like debate prep with Trump, and I hated it. And it's like the main reason, like when people ask me about this debate, I was like, I'm not looking forward to seeing it because I'm not anxious to see a replay of that. And I know they say that they're going to cut their mics, et cetera, but how much of a difference is that going to make if Donald Trump just decides to yell from his podium? Yeah. If somebody is yelling in the room and you're like, 20 feet away, what difference is it going to make if the mic doesn't pick them up? Your ears can still hear them, and that's distracting, I think.
Yeah, and the camera will probably follow him too if he starts doing stuff. That's a good point.
So last but not least, I think this one is probably the worst possible moment you could have on national TV if you are hoping to get the job or keep the job of president.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared to specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Wow. Stand back.
I don't know if you heard during that that exchange, but you can hear Joe say it, do it, say it.
Yeah, yeah.
he's prodding him on.
Yeah.
So Trump can actually be baited.
Yes.
He can be baited into saying some of the dumbest shit. Like there was, I don't know if you remember this interview by Chris Matthews on MSNBC a while back, where he's pressing Trump to answer the question, do you think there should be punishment for a woman who seeks abortion? Do you remember that thing?
Yeah, I do.
What do you say about your church? They're very, very strong.
They're allowed to, but the churches make their moral judgments. But you running for president of the United States will be chief executive of the United States. Do you believe believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't
what?
know. That I don't know.
Well, why not?
Know. I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
First, he tried to dance around it, but Chris Matthews pushed him. And I think if President Biden pushes him to answer a goddamn question, we might get something like that.
Yeah. It was interesting, too. There was one thing I noticed where he has like a moment where he almost falters, where he almost like retreats and he pauses. And then he's like, fuck, I'm like kind of caught in a corner. And then he starts attacking back and he's like, give me a name. Give me a name. What do you want?
Yeah.
Like his only defense is to attack.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause he can't stand to be like belittled in front of people. And so for him to be, to receive a barrage of criticism and not answer, boldly answer back, So that was him. Stand back and stand by, but it was wrong. It was wrong. How hard is it to just denounce people who were like meant to be denounced? White supremacy. That should be easy. Yeah. Easy thing to do. But swing and a miss.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah. So I believe it is now time for one of our favorite segments of the day. It's You Raggedy Bish. You Raggedy Bish. And for today's You Raggedy Bish, we're doing something different, aren't we,
a little different.
Kenny?
Yeah. It seems we have a trifecta of raggedy bishiness, so to speak.
Yes, we're looking at the three people at the top of Donald Trump's VP list. We have Senator J.D. Vance.
Right.
We also have Senator Marco Rubio and former Governor Doug Burgum. And what do these three guys have in common?
They are all potential Trump vice presidential nominees. They are hopefuls.
Yes. In addition to that, all three of them, at one point or another, have specifically called out Donald Trump in no small way.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I just think that it's important that you're judged by the company you keep, and You just wouldn't do business with him? No, I wouldn't.
What we are dealing with here, my friends, is a con artist. He is a con artist. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists.
So they're now capitulating to Donald Trump. They're bending the knee, is like the ultimate hypocrisy. You have him one moment, you have Doug Burgum saying that, he wouldn't do business with Trump.
Yep.
Because people will judge you by who you do business with.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio famously went back and forth with Trump back in 2016, calling him a con man and
tiny hands.
Something else. And JD Vance, back when he was wearing the back when he was in the Silicon Valley, when he was in San Francisco or California, whatever, he was a never Trumper. He was a never Trumper. And these are not like, decades old. This is just like a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. How quickly the table turns when power is at stake.
And it's not just the fact that they are completely, you're allowed to change your mind.
For sure.
People are allowed to change their mind about things. It's been done all the time. When you get new information about a subject, it's okay to be enlightened about it. But the new information that we have on Donald Trump, it's like, he only gets worse. The more more you peel back layers, the more horrible he looks.
Yeah. It's like finding out something is toxic and or knowing something is toxic, then finding out it's even more toxic and being like, no, you know what? I actually like that now. I want to drink that.
Yeah. Look, all three of these guys, before they agreed to be considered as his vice president, they have already seen January 6th.
Yeah.
This is after their statement saying that they couldn't gel with this guy one moment or one way or another. Then January 6th happened, and that's your off ramp, guys.
Yeah.
That is your blatant off ramp. That's where a lot of moderate Republicans, they're like, no, sorry, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But these guys, why are they hanging in there for Donald Trump?
It's gotta be, I think we talked about this last week too, but it's just gotta be the power. They want the power. They want the relevance. They want whatever, deals will come their way by being Trump's VP. And that's,
do they think he's going to kick the bucket? Is that what it is?
They think his cognitive decline is going to come for him and they're going to be president. Maybe.
Are they thinking about 25th Amendmenting him?
Maybe. I'm sure that's in the back of their heads. It's got to be there.
Yeah,
because what else do you like? To your point, they said that I won't do business with him. You're a never Trumper. Marco Rubio has so many bouts with the guy that are like famous, that you can watch, where he calls them like tiny hands and they feud back and forth. It's the same thing with like Ted Cruz. He made fun of Ted Cruz's friggin' wife,
his father.
Yeah, assassinated JFK. Like, what the fuck?
I think that's the thing that gets me, is that these are not dumb people. It would be one thing if we were talking about Tommy Tuberville, not the smartest guy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, dumb folks. We're talking about people who are objectively intelligent. You listen to them speak and you know that there's the gears are turning in there. There's something working. The fact that they can just decide to flip that switch off and switch their own ethical switch off. It's one thing to think about things and to think about things in your head and say, well, if I hang out there, he eats 5 Big Macs a day, it's not going to last that long, then I'll be president. It's one thing to scheme like that. It's another thing to align yourself with someone whose morals and values are just non-existent.
Yeah.
Who's only running really to stay out of prison. Who for 187 minutes on January 6th did nothing while Capitol police officers were being beaten with fire extinguishers and flagpoles and having their eyes gouged out, sprayed with bear spray, and this is the guy you're aligning yourself with, who's calling those January 6th attackers heroes and patriots.
And hostages, the ones that got caught. I think it's it's appalling. And it just goes to show, like, if they can set aside all of these proposed morals that they had in the past and these ethics that they clearly don't anymore and align themselves with Trump, given all of that, like, what do they stand for? What are they willing to put aside if he comes to power as they're the vice president? What will they put up with? You know, the right was calling for Mike Pence to be hung. They're not going to want to have the calls for them to be hung. So what are they willing to do to just suck up to that power? And then further from that, that's the person you're going to vote for? Like, they don't even stand for themselves. How do you expect them to stand for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Mike Pence, because it's a very good point. You know, for 4 years, Mike Pence was his ride or die guy. He was, adoringly gazing, in the direction of Donald Trump. You know, Trump could do no wrong until he did wrong, until Donald Trump asked him to subvert the democratic process, to disregard disregard these votes.
Yeah.
And then he actually went and asked if he had the authority to what was the name of George H.W. Bush's vice president? It was Dan. I can only see the word potato misspelled in my head.
Dan Quayle.
Thank you very much. Dan Quayle. He went and asked Dan Quayle, do I have the right to do this? And Dan Quayle saved our democracy. He was like, no, don't do it. You don't have the right to do it. Dan Quayle, who couldn't spell potato.
Wow.
Yeah, saved the day. So
I did not know that, actually.
So the fact that these three guys have already cleared the bar in order to be on Trump's short list, it means that he has already asked these guys, would you do what I asked you on January 6th?
Yeah.
Would you do what Mike Pence was unable to do? Right? Which means that they're not in the running anymore if they don't get asked that question and they don't answer that question the way Donald Trump wants them to answer. They've got to swear 100% loyalty and fealty to that wannabe dictator.
100%. And you see it in how they act in media and interviews and how they're positioning themselves. Not only with the statements about, obviously supporting him, but I think it was Doug Burgum who was saying ludicrously that Joe Biden was the biggest threat to democracy. And so they're all just auditioning for a dictator. Like, give me a break, man.
Unreal.
It's appalling.
Well, for one, I'm not, honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm not really looking forward to this debate between President Biden and Donald Trump. I think President Biden will be prepared. I think he's going to bring his A game, and I think he will thrash Donald Trump. But I don't think Donald Trump belongs on the stage with President Biden. I think he is given up that right and that privilege. I think 100%. He's disgraced himself. He disgraced the office. He's disgraced our country.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I, for one, am excited for the debate a little bit just because it's something. But I'm
not going to not watch it. I am going to watch it.
Right. I'm going to bust out the popcorn. I'm going to sit down, have a drink, and, enjoy it. But I fully agree with that sentiment that he does not have the right. He does not deserve the honor to be on that stage against President Joe Biden.
Yeah. All right, my friend. That's another one in the books. Folks, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Defiant Podcast. I'm your host, Majid Badillan, a.k.a. Brooklyn Dad Defiant. This is Kenny Hess. Stay defiant.